We are now going to take a look at some of the source codes out there in the open source and obviously see source code and then explore how pointers are used and maybe even try and read the syntax and figure out what might be going on. All right. So first we are going to explore uh, a bare metal-ish source code. And what bare metal means is there is no OS. No operating system involved here, so straight CPU and memory interactions. So this is one of such repositories. You can go to github.com/google/ESH, stands for embedded shell. And this is like some work that me and my peers were doing as a side project, and we decided to open source it. So to be able to explore any repository that's on GitHub, you go to that repository and simply hit the the dot symbol on your keyboard, which is you this key, right? So you can press this key, and what will happen is you'll notice that VS Code opens just for browsing purposes. So let me go ahead and do that. So I press the dot and you see that it opened up the source code. Typically you'll see something like so, right? All the files in the repository are here and you should see something like this. Now within this repository, and again because I have authored this repository, I know which file to kind of go and explore so that we can come straight to the point. Okay, our intention is to read and understand the source code and figure out where all pointers are used. So these are header files, so we don't care about those. This is a pointer. Just because I see a star here, this is a pointer. I see a star here. Normally, if there was a data type followed by a star and then some name, or between the data type and the variable, if there was a star and space or white space on either side, I would know that the pointer is pointing to this type of data. What we see instead here is we see brackets, and then the star or asterisk is within the brackets, and then there are more brackets here, which tells me that this is a function pointer, right? So we are straight up starting off from function pointers, right? And the second one is also function pointer. And then what's the difference between the two? It looks as though the first one is pointing to a function uh, of this nature, while the second one is pointing to a function uh, of this nature, right? So this essentially, this and this is giving away the return type and the parameters that the function will take, right? So these are then the function pointers, right? And let's not go into more detail of what this repository is doing and things of those nature. That kind of becomes more relevant once you know what the repository is for and you're trying to kind of understand that repository. Okay, let's move on and see what other pointers. So I do see a star here, followed by volatile and table. So no brackets seen here. So table is still a variable. Um, so okay, so there is some static, there's some command T. Okay, command underscore T, and this because I know this is a struct. So now this number here, which comes from here somewhere, and this comes from externally somewhere, right? Because of the external keyword here. Let's not worry about that. The idea is that this variable's address is being typecasted into the structure pointer and then stored here. So table is essentially pointing to something some memory location which is having a struct commands underscore t, right? So there are different fields here. So that's that. Similar to auto load is a variable auto load that's again pointing to some region that is of the type, or that is like a structure being stored there essentially, right? Okay, so that is that. Let's move on. Let's browse a little more. So far so good. Ah, nice. If you see here, this is a function, a normal function, which takes in a function parameter, a function pointer as a parameter, right? And the body of the function starts here, body of the function ends here. Which function? We are talking about this function. So again, this function takes in a function pointer, which is referred to by the name func, and this is the body of this function. And what we see happening here is the read underscore, well, underscore underscore read underscore char underscore underscore variable is assigned the value of the function pointer. And this, my claim is one of the variables which is up here. You see, this was a function pointer variable, and that we are assigning here. Hopefully, it hopefully it all is making sense, in the sense that there are function pointers floating around, there are pointers floating around, there are function pointers taken in as function parameters. Same here. So right, this function pointer variable, which is global, is assigned some value which is provided here. Moving on, but this, by the way, also gives you some hint of how to go about designing your applications with function pointers and pointers. And if you notice here, so there is handle arrow up, so it's taking in some buffer which is of the type character pointer. Then there is integer pointer. um, this is again, just reiterating, this is all to explain how common pointers are, right? And well, did you ever wonder why we would be passing pointers to a function? That's just so that you don't allocate space for new variables and their content. If a variable was already declared here, you can always pass the address of that variable, right? And then manipulate the same memory region. You need not copy it over to somewhere here, which usually happens as a result of function calls. Function calls are, they have their own mechanism, but the way you pass values to a function is by putting them on stack. And if you have, let's say, an array of 1000 elements, you don't want to each time take 1000 elements and put them on stack every time you're doing a function call. What you can do is allocate those 1000 element once and then pass the starting address of those 1000 elements to each function. That way everybody uses the same memory region to manipulate the same entries. Hopefully that made sense. If not, it's out of scope for this set of course anyways. Okay, more pointer here, more pointers here. If we move on, more pointers here. Hopefully I'm beating the horse to death now. More pointers here. Um, then let's scroll down again. Again, more pointers here. Interestingly, a double pointer also. So you're having pointer that points to another pointer, right? So that is also very common. You see it here. Moving on. Then you see function pointers being invoked here or called upon here. Another function pointer being, these are global variables in this file, which happen to be function pointers. So they are being called here. And moving on, moving on. Yeah, I suppose that's pretty much it. Hopefully it, drives the point home.